Hello, everyone. Hi. Enjoying the lunch and learning. Good stuff. Okay, how many people here ever worked with artificial intelligence or software bots, stuff like that? Okay, so today we're going to talk about the impact of these little pesky little bots. And the title of the talk is Breaking the Fourth Wall in Software. So what do we mean by fourth wall? I'll explain shortly. Basically, everything old is new again. So we have been here before, and now we're coming back with a bit more force. And it's kind of also impacted by the huge number of people that are now in the mainstream, as opposed to in the early days where it was kind of just very few elite people. So, breaking the fourth wall, how many of you have heard this term related to movies? So there's a number of movies where all of a sudden this spell, like the magic spell that you are actually experiencing something that's actually happening, all of a sudden the actors turn towards the camera and they start talking and you're startled and you're like, oh, all of a sudden you realize this is all make-believe, etc. Same as in the theater when they turn to the audience, they start talking directly. And in software, we will see how we break the fourth wall in a similar kind of fashion. But everybody's probably seen this movie, and Amelie. So, excuse me. I just want to quickly talk about early human-computer interfaces in the early days, where computers were super expensive and only available to governments and military and some big businesses. And they were very primitive. They were also very intimidating. People were, these big rooms with air conditioning. People were kind of flipping all kinds of mysterious switches, and everybody was totally mystified what's going on. Also, they were clunky. There's a lot of dials and little buttons to push and switches to flip, and it was just reserved for very, very few highly trained individuals. But there's been a breakthrough eventually where we've kind of abandoned punch cards and all these like really arcane ways of dealing with computers and made text available as a means of communication with computers. So that was the age of the terminal where, excuse me, same as with a typewriter, you can sit at a terminal, you type something, and then send that text to the computer, and then the computer will interpret and will act upon whatever you entered. So it was more intuitive, because instead of being intimidated with some strange foreign objects, text, everybody knows text. Everybody went to school, learn how to read and write, and we speak freely, conversationally, and so this is very, very natural to us. So all of a sudden, hey, I can talk to a computer. That feels much more, I'm at home, rather than being intimidated. However, we've quickly learned, anybody who tried that computers are clunky, very temperamental, they just break easily, and they start screaming, and error, this and that, beeping. So people say, oh, this is nothing. Forget it. And only people like these, I apologize for couldn't find a shot. You probably recognize some of the faces. These guys, like the geeks, they knew how to talk to computers, and the rest of us were like hopeless. So there was also a push to popularize, democratize computers because they're so useful, and the idea was that they should be offered to the mainstream businesses and households. And so in the 70s, there was this initiative to demystify computers and all this like clunky text and brittle interface by introducing the desktop metaphor. So I say, okay, instead of you having to understand all these like special commands that the computer can understand, why don't we put a shiny surface on top of it and pretend it's your familiar work environment, it's your desktop. your work surface. Here you have your folders, you have your files, you have your trash can. You can open things, you can make some changes, save them, put them back in the folder, put them in the drawer, blah, blah, blah. So that all of a sudden made it less intimidating for people who are not computer scientists to actually sit down and start working at a computer. So that was awesome. And that really helped popularize and bring computer into the mainstream, into the household. And the biggest, even though Apple did it in the 80s, the actual biggest, most effective breakthrough happened in the early 90s with Microsoft Windows that replaced DOS. And thanks to the Windows, millions and millions and hundreds of millions of households all of a sudden had a PC at home and were ready for the next wave of revolution, which was the internet. However, what at first was like a big relief, like, okay, yeah, GUI, graphical, fantastic, quickly turned into something like this, which is very scary and counterintuitive. So you look at this, you're like, oh my God, I have no idea. How is this better than the other, So again, it didn't help much, and still it feels clunky. And then people said, well, but people say, picture is worth 1,000 words. Why do you, but these words are gibberish. So 1,000, crappy words are not worth much. Just the quantity of words doesn't say much, right? So, we ended up with all these like scary applications and websites and apps that just like so much, to digest, and we don't know what to do with it. Basically, bottom line, after all these years and dealing with this, is that people find graphical user interfaces frustrating. They are supposed to be intuitive, but that's a bit of a misnomer. And we learn quickly they're not really intuitive, and we don't really know what to do with them. And they're just pretending to be friendly, but they're really not. Also, graphical user interfaces enforce the one-size-fits-all. So if you're using some app, it feels the same to you as it feels the same to me as to any other. So they're very, very impersonal. And that's something that we don't see much value in. There's not much value proposition if everything's kind of one-size-fits-all, not attractive. So what if, instead of dealing with this shiny layer of intermediate graphics, what if we go back to the plain text? Because plain text is not so confusing, and again, it is intuitive. But then the complaint is, yeah, but you remember how computers are brittle, and they will not be forgiving. At least GUIs are a bit forgiving. They're not screaming at us. They're just kind of shielding us from the temperamental beast under the hood. So I don't know. Do I really want to go back to text? I don't feel comfortable. So this entire sentiment is actually showing us that GUIs are basically training wheels for people who don't know, for example, how to ride a bike. Okay, here's a training wheel. You can sit down. You won't fall. Or here's some crutches. You learn a little bit how to walk, or wheelchairs. So they are kind of an aid, but they're not really the end game, because we can't get far using training wheels. You can, paddle around your yard, but if you want to go on a bike race, not going to work for you. So they are kind of limiting us in how we can leverage them. Now, the question is, how do we now remove training wheels and really learn how to write properly and really utilize this incredible power that computing technology is bringing us without getting stuck in some pedestrian baby steps and crutches going like this? So the thing is, we need to break this fourth wall. So right now, what we're doing mostly, traditionally, is pushing pixels. So you're kind of drag and dropping, you're paging up and down, up and down, up and down. You're hunting for some links, some menus, and you're like, okay, how do I, So it's basically pixel based, and that's the wall, right? That is the wall that's really slowing us down, because anytime I go in, I'm like, okay, I want to see if my flight is on time. Where do I look? It's millions of these pages, and it keeps changing all the time. So the question is, to break the fourth wall, how can we do that? What is needed? So I'll give you an example. Let's say we order something online, And then we are waiting for this item to arrive. And next week we sit and wondering, where is it? It hasn't arrived yet. So now we want to check the status of my order. Open the browser, go to the online store, log in, try to navigate. Where can I find the order status page? I'm not sure, blah, blah. There's millions of menus, this and that. Jungle of layouts, links, it keeps changing all the time. And basically, we are trying to get to the answer to that simple question. What's the status of the order? This is the current situation. But a less frustrating example would be, instead of doing all the gymnastics and acrobatics, we just go to the command line. For example, if you're using Slack or Facebook Messenger, and we just type at and merchant name, whatever, Amazon, Etsy, eBay. What's the status of my order? And then the merchant service on the back end will do the legwork and go up and figure it out for us. So we just ask a question. We don't need to navigate anything or push any pixels. So by doing that, we just effectively broke this fourth wall, because now we're talking directly to the beast under the hood instead of talking intermediary to some graphical concierge who's kind of also clunky. Okay, so let's review what happened here. We have effectively abandoned the GUI. We said, okay, I just don't have time for this shiny pages and fantastic layouts. We flipped over to plain text, and we are interacting with eCommerce, just using text. Same as we would interact with our friends. But at the same token, pay attention how we didn't have to go to any training course. Usually when people introduce, traditionally some package, you have to go to a training course and learn how to, okay, this is how to do this and that and blah, blah, blah. And, but with using text, there's no training. You just talk, right? Why do you need to undergo any training? This was made possible because if we are doing it this way, we are actually interacting with a sophisticated bot in the background. And so how do we get involved with this? There's a bot that we say, okay, this is a useful service, and it recognizes text, and I want to get involved with it. It's simple. We just go /invite. So if you, let's say you're on Slack, and you're like, oh, I heard about this bot. It's really good for, I can hail Uber ride, or I can order flowers. You can just go /invite, bot name, bot is in. And now, once invited, the bot is sitting there 24/7, always online, takes no bathroom breaks or anything like that, just listening to you mentioning its name, calling you by name. So this bot now is the buffer, not the graphical page, not the pixels, but the bot. Silent buffer. So why is this useful? This bot is attentive to human needs. So its whole entire purpose in life is just to fulfill your needs, but at the same time, it's sensitive to human frailty. So it's not going to be temperamental or difficult. It's really this new generation of bots is being built by recognizing human frailty and kind of vague character of conversation. So it will take that into consideration. It will not just like, oh no, error, beep, I don't understand, you're stupid. So it's attentive and also sensitive. So is this a revolutionary change? Not really. No, this is not revolutionary. This is strictly evolution in the stream of human-machine interaction. Because in actuality, this is not really different from GUIs. It's actually very similar. So sometimes it's funny, like we kind of talk bad about GUIs and all that, but now we're saying they're the same. So to illustrate that, let's examine what's going on in a typical GUI interface. So as a user, we are presented with an input field. So you go to a website, there's a web form of some sort, there's an input field. Or text box, sometimes we call it text box. So this GUI listens to our gestures. So we type something in, and then when we have a send a submit or a submit gesture, it basically, what does it do? It turns around and actually sends text. So it's doing the same thing as we would be doing, just on our behalf. So basically, GUIs are also text-driven, even though on the surface they look like all pixels. But in reality, the pixels are being used as decoration to appease the anxiety. So people are nervous, oh, I don't know how to. Well, you have all these beautiful, pretty pictures, they emulate, they sugarcoat the form and emulate, present in a more familiar context, such as resembles a paper form. Oh, all of a sudden I'm like, okay, I feel better. I understand what's going on. And also, it gives graphic designers a chance to show off their chops. They can be amazingly, looks the same in all browsers. Wow, fantastic. But in reality, what's happening, just really skin deep, what's happening behind the surface is text. Browser turns around and sends HTTP GET or HTTP POST with text, same as you would type directly. So, the question now is, if we remove this pixelated decoration, this whole fantastic machinery and overarching infrastructure of various layers and colors, and fonts, and whatnot, what's left? Anyone knows? What are we left with if you just remove all of that? You've already been working with this, I'm pretty sure. There's one word. Sorry?
Ones and zeros.
No, I'm talking in human terms, not in. Sorry. In human terms, one word it describes it. It's called microcopy. Anyone here using microcopy? So, okay, what is microcopy? When you have a present user with some kind of an input field, such as phone number, oftentimes if you just say, "What's your phone number?" people say, "No, I don't feel like giving you my phone number." So to elicit, give a better, more friendly experience to the users, we usually put a little bit in a bracket saying, "Oh, we just need it for shipping-related questions. We won't bother." So that's microcopy. Or a bit more elaborate, we need your phone number in case we need to contact you about your order. So this is but when it all boils down to and distilled the whole user experience boils down to this microcopy, which are all these like little one-liners that we experience throughout the session when we are ordering something or we're doing something. We get these little snippets of "Thank you for ordering. We'll let you know when this is being shipped, etc." This is microcopy. So this is the essence of the user interface. It's this kind of a textual information that basically, by removing the graph, all the decorations around it, we're left with a conversational thread between the user and the backend service. So all these steps are basically consist of a thread. So you log in, you do something, and there's an interchange. "Oh, you forgot to give me your phone number. Here's my phone number," etc., etc. Finally, "Thank you. This is all good. I'll send you a notification to your inbox when this is ready," etc. So this is a conversation thread. So this constitutes the conversational commerce, where we are actually in conversation with some third-party e-commerce, be it Amazon or So, what are the advantages of this conversational commerce and these interfaces? As we mentioned, they're intuitive, so nothing to learn. They're, again, sensitive to human frailty, and if something is not clear, the bot will try and clarify. It will ask subsequent questions. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Can you please, did you mean that? So it's very, very polite, respectful to the human. It's familiar because everyone already has been accustomed to chatting with family, friends, coworkers. That's not novelty. Everybody's used to that throughout the years. It's getting more and more into that mode where we're just chatting and sending quick messages. Another advantage is the experience is absolutely identical across any device, whether you're on your handheld, you're on your Xbox, you're on your laptop, you're on your tablet, wherever you are, same fonts, everything same. There's no, "Oh my God, this looks and feels totally different on my TV," for example, than it looks on my phone. And also, the conversation thread is forever recorded, so you can always go back and see what happened. So these things never go off the cliff. Unlike you're interacting with some website and something happens, and then you're like, "Oh, I think I ordered." You can't even retrace your steps. But this interface gives us full ownership of exactly what transpired as we were interacting with the service. So this is actually, when you experience it, it's very similar to your actual customer support 1-800 experience. So something's wrong, my internet is down, I'm calling 1-800 to tell us. And what happens? You get put on hold. And you're sitting in a music hell, listening to the same songs over and over. And 47 minutes later, they're like, don't hang up, you're third in line, blah, blah. Okay, but when you eventually make it through, then if there's any issues you just can't resolve, then it gets escalated to the supervisor. And same is here. If the bots just cannot resolve your issue, then they're trained, typically the way we build them, to now escalate to the human workforce. But they are the first kind of buffer. And only if we just can't get to the satisfactory resolution do we go with ask for the human intervention. So I'm going to pause for eventual questions, and then we're just going to go into the second part. So any questions, or should we keep on? All right. So let's look at some trends right now. So as of right now, actually not right now, but it's the last year. So here we have the growth from 2011 until last year. This line represents big four social networking apps, such as Facebook, Twitter, etc. So they're growing steadily. And then this wiggly line is the big four messaging apps. And we see how at first they were like pretty low 4 or 5 years ago, and then suddenly kind of picking up and crossing and exceeding at around the first quarter of last year. So this time last year they kind of break through, and now they're going up to 3 billion monthly active users. And this trend is very aggressively picking up the steam. So the trend and the prediction is that a lot of people will be spending a lot of time chatting, be it with humans or with bots. So this seems to be an unstoppable trend. So what does that mean for our profession? Here we have kind of 4 phases from the 80s all the way to this year. In the 80s, we had the era of packaged software with everything was on the client, like your Apple computer, your DOS PC, and the opportunity for developers was weak because the market was not formed yet. There were some vendors, etc. Moving into the 90s with the popularization of the web, we saw that it was more the days of Amazon and Facebook, Google. The development was server-based. Prevalently, the client was thin, and the opportunity for developers was strong in those days up until the smartphone. Now, 2008 is when the smartphones became mainstream. And Google, Apple, apps, and client-dominant development. So it was moving all the intelligences on the actual smartphone. And therefore, the opportunity for developers was weak. However, moving into this year, we're seeing the trend where Slack, Facebook Messenger, and there's others, are moving aggressively with the conversational commerce and all these other text-based or message-based user experiences, which again points back to server-dominant development and potentially strong opportunity for developers, because there'll be a lot of need to build super smart, resilient, respectful bots. So on the web, traditionally, keyword search was the core of the experience. We go Google things and blah, blah, blah. But on the mobile, it's now become clear that chat is where most people spend most of the time, not keyword search. So most people on the mobile. Even if I need something, I will not necessarily go and search for it. I'm just going to ping somebody, ask, hey, do you know where is a good place to eat? So it's more like personalized space. So Seth Rosenberg, who's now trying to propel Facebook into this space, he said that we're just getting people used to the idea that you can message more than just people. Because at first he was like, well, I don't get this. But now the lines are being blurred, that whether you don't even know sometimes if you're talking to a bot or a real person. He's just going to pretend, oh, I have a customer support, but it's actually software. But it's very sophisticated, so you think you're speaking with a real person. Also, today we're seeing the disappearance of flip phones. How many people have flip phones? Not much. It's hip now to have a flip phone. And with that, we see the disappearance of phone numbers. So a lot of people on Messenger today, if you're a messenger on a Messenger, I don't need to know your phone number. We can talk. I can give you a direct call. We can voice or video chat. So the time is coming where phone numbers will be irrelevant. I don't even need to know your phone number. I just find you in the Messenger or some other such messaging platform. And also, we see that the discussion threads are becoming the new app. So apps are also really dwindling. People are now getting to the point where they don't feel like installing apps anymore. Such a hassle, and you have to download, install, configure on. We just go on a discussion thread and we get as much as possible things done over there because it's a one-stop shop. Gives the context, gives the history, gives so much power at your fingertips, and we don't need to jump up around and swipe left and right. Where's that app? They say that an average user today has about 35 apps on their smartphone and is using up to 4. The others just like language, never do. Download once to get something done, never even. And then some people remember to delete, some people just leave it there. So this is how we establish our own social handshake, because the advantage of this is there's nothing to install, nothing to configure, there's just flow, right? And we just kind of run with the flow, get things done for us, and keep moving. So in conclusion, we are leaving behind the world of scarcity, entering the world of abundance, because now we get to a point where we can easily hire huge workforce to work for us at a very, very minimal cost, oftentimes free. So that's amazing. That's something we never had before this. Only rich people were able to have their staff. And there's many, many very interesting stories. I don't have time to really now, but it really is fantastic what these things can do for us. And so this concludes the presentation. I don't know if I have the time. I wanted to show you, let's build a real bot from scratch, if you're interested. 10 minutes. All right. So we're going to do some coding. So I'm going to go into the area called demo. Let's see if I can enlarge this. Can you see it?
Yeah.
So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to build an e-commerce site, like an e-commerce service. And so with this e-commerce service, then we'll show you how to actually bolt a bot who will be able to service customer service, so you don't have to log into the website and navigate and whatnot. So how should we call this? I defer to you. Any fancy name, simple name? Huh? E-commerce, that's original. Okay, so we're going to create e-commerce.
What language is this?
This is Ruby on Rails. Yeah, so Ruby on Rails is the most powerful for e-commerce, for building platforms. I mean, Airbnb, all these like huge, are all in Ruby on Rails. So now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create this. Okay, so I'm going to create, let's say, for simplicity, because we don't have time, let's create products. So we're gonna like have products, inventory of products on this platform, and then we will train the bot to respond to some questions about products. Make sense? Okay. I'm not a good typist. So I'm going to call it product. I'm going to give it some attributes such as name, which is string, price, which is decimal. I'm going to give it on special, which is Boolean, true or false. So some of these products may be on special promotion. And I'm going to say, say discount price, percentage, which will be integer. And I'm going to say description text. All right, so string, name is string, price is decimal, on special Boolean, discount percentage integer. All right, now I'm going to actually, this is a specification for the database, so I'm going to do migration, which is actually going to create the database and this table where we store the products. Sorry, migrate. Okay, so this is now migrated, and I'm going to start the server. So let's flip over to the browser and let's do, let's navigate to the local host, which we just created, and I'm going to go to products. So let's see if I enlarge this a bit. Of course, there are no products, the database is empty. So let's add a new product. I need your help here. So let's say t-shirt. Price would be $25. It's not on special. Summer is here, etc. And we create the product. Let's create another one.
Slippers.
Excellent. Summer theme. So how much is a fair price for slippers? 15 bucks, okay. This is on special, and we're gonna say it's 18% off. Okay, and we're gonna say beach time. Let's create maybe another one. Slippers, beach time, anything else?
Shorts.
Shorts. Price is of course 35 bucks. This is on special, 10%, no, let's say 14% off, and this is for what? For strolling. Strolling. Right. And just another one. Hats, yeah. A hat for $55.99 on special and 25% off. Shields from the sun, right? All right. So here we have our e-commerce platform, tada, fantastic, all these inventory products. And now we want to offer a automated service in the form of a bot who will be able to answer questions about the inventory, what's in stock, blah, blah, blah. So how do we do that? First of all, I'll be using Slack because everybody's familiar with Slack, right? So Slack is Slack is now called the new operating system because everybody's on Slack and all the businesses are there. So pretty much it's going to be your e-commerce, right? So I'm going to add, on Slack you can add services. So what I'm doing here is I'm adding Slack/services/new bot. So you can go in and if you're a member of Slack, you just add a new bot. So how do we want to call this guy? Okay, maybe give it a shorter name because we're oops, sorry. So any short name like Chubby? Shop? Okay, shop bot. All right. And we are going to add bot integration. Now here we have this token. This is a secret handshake between Slack and our commerce platform. They will know, okay, we talk this way. Shop bot, we can give it, we don't want it to be anonymous, so we'll give it some kind of a visual representation. And we're going to save it. All right, so this is done. Now we need to actually, we need to, one second. We need to now add it to our e-commerce platform so that this bot will know how to talk to our users and figure out what's going on in the backend. Let me just open the editor. Okay, new version I'm going to download now. And I'm going to open our, how do we call our e-commerce? Okay, so here's e-commerce. And let's see if I can make it bigger. All right, so a few things. Remember that token here? We need to plug it in here. So in our e-commerce site, we have this folder called config, and we're going to add a new file. And I'm going to call it just API. And in there, I need to add the environment variable called Slack API token. So let's see if I can make this bigger. See here, we need this defined on our backend because this is going to be the actual verification. Once we do that, we need to go to the environment and we need to say, let me see if I can remember. So API, and we need to now define where to, this is a little bit of plumbing that I need to do in order for things to connect the dots, right? So bear with me. And this is called API. And now I'm going to load API if it exists. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is we need to define an area, sorry, in our app, where we bolt the bots, and they will live in this separate area. So I will simply create a new folder that I will name bots. Now in this folder, I'm going to create a real-time messaging loop. So because bots actually are not like a typical web system where it's like request response. Bots are establish a session via the WebSocket, and they're constantly there. So the loop is there, the thread is there, and it's listening to any of your actions. So I need to do that. Unfortunately, I need to do this plumbing a little bit. I'm going to create a new file in here. I'm going to call it real-time message, RTM, real-time messaging for short. I don't want to keep it short and sweet here. And in here, I'm going to, how does it go? Unshift, yeah. No, I can't type. File, their name. I'm going to say thread abort on exception, and then I'm going to create a new thread which will actually start the bot and then listen to it. So we are calling this guy ShopBot.
Actually, have
3 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think we're going to make it, so maybe better talk about if you have any questions, because I don't think we can make it in 3 minutes. Just a few more things to do. Any questions, or everybody going back to work?
I just had a question. I was wondering if you see this sort of this text-based communication eventually being integrated with other like voice-based tools too.
Yeah.
Because it's natural conversation.
Yeah, I mean, when we say text, it's interchangeable, voice or text. Sometimes you don't feel comfortable talking, so you type, but it results in text. You can even write it on a piece of paper and do OCR, and that turns into text. But eventually it boils down to text. Same as in the browser, your requests actually end up being text sent back to the backend. So it's not really that different.
In regards to like the e-commerce bot, Amazon's Alexa, Amazon Echo, that's basically what you're talking about.
Yeah, Echo.
Prime example of this. What about you talk about like the need to constantly listen for the activation command, which is for Echo, it's Alexa.
Uh-huh.
The constant, like, is there a push right now in the security level of that, of like an always on feature and an always listen feature picking up information? Or is that, I mean, does that not come into play with bots in that regard?
Well, bots are always on. That's their nature. And that's their value because they never take breaks. So given that arrangement, then I'm not exactly sure what...
Well, I mean, like if you have a bot that's always on in your house listening at all times, there's like kind of a push to an acceptance of like almost like a lead through of personal space, if you will.
Uh-huh.
Like a digital personal comfort.
Uh-huh.
Because you have to, I mean, like for the Internet of Things, you have to kind of push like what you expect of your
Understand.
digital objects.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you ever watched Futurama, the cartoon. In one episode, the Bender, the bot, was being obnoxious, so they just turn around. Behind him, there's a switch. So humans are in the driver's seat. So you decide if you can just shut it off. So you decide if you want the bot on or off. But if you decide to have it on, it's always on. It's not like taking breaks or things like that. No. But you totally configure and you decide, like, you can even send it the command to shut up. Or some of these bots have humor level you can adjust. Like they're very joking or no, I'm sick and tired, I don't need any more jokes. Things like that. But the point is, because they're sensitive to human frailty, that the respect and the user experience is paramount. And those bots that are disrespectful and sneaky will not live long, will not prosper. And those bots that are really good servants, good butlers, completely obedient, completely respond to every command, these will prosper, these will become popular. Right? So it's natural selection, same as in real life. It's the same as if you're hiring your workforce and you're hiring some people to work for you and some of them are like unruly, you just like fire them or try to retrain them or something. But it's baked into this technology that you actually have the switch. You can flip and say, okay, I'm turning this off, this is annoying.
Well, do you think that there will be like you say it's like natural selection, whereas like in the early 90s you talk about Windows being like the prevalent expander for the GUI, like when 3.1.1 came out in the early 90s and then became like 95 and 98. It wasn't until the mid to late 90s that Apple really offered a solid competitor to the Windows GUI. Are we seeing, is that kind of where we're at right now? It's like the early 90s for bots, and we'll be seeing in a decade, or is it something less where we'll see, like, just because of the level of competition already built in, we'll see a faster evolutionary change in that regard?
I think right now what we're seeing is the awkward adolescent phase, where things are really feeling not settled. Keep in mind that we are just catching up with China. China's been here in 2011, 5 years ago, with the WeChat. So in China, WeChat has over 10 million bots. kicking around, 10 million. So, I mean, we can never catch up with them. We're just kind of we're crawling here, getting out of our diapers. Really, I mean, if you read about WeChat, it's like pushing you way up to the 23rd century from where we are. So, you know, it's Facebook is trying to catch up with China, but it's, yes.
So what other capabilities does WeChat have? I don't
It's
know.
WeChat started. They're very smart. They're geniuses. They started by creating a wallet. The wallet is something they worked with all the financial institutions in China to create a unified payment system. It's completely vetted. Everybody's completely trusted. And now when you have that piece of infrastructure, you can build on it whatever you want. We don't have wallet on the West. And who's going to provide the wallet? Facebook is trying to do that. So until we have such unified, easy payment, you can pay for anything. China is going to lead the way. I mean, there's no question about it, right? Somehow we will get to the wallet. I don't know who's going to do it, but until such time, it's kind of touch and go. The whole idea is for you to basically run your life from your command line. Do all the payments, all the banking, all the questions. Like I've seen a demonstration of WhatsApp where you're working in the office and you see who is speaking to your child at the daycare. You see the person. Oh, it's the nanny, or it's my relative. So it's completely integrated. You have full control of your life. And for us, yes?
I'm just curious.
I was going to say, sorry, I actually have to cut it off here, just because everyone has to get back to class. But can I share your information with everyone so that they can send you any other questions?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Thanks for your questions.